Thanks everyone for joining us. Uh, I know we have TourWest grantees here from across our region, and we appreciate you taking the time to go through these. We'll try to make this as short and sweet as possible. I know a lot of you are past grantees, so a lot of this might not be new information for you, although we do have some new folks on the call as well. And we do have a couple new things from past years to go over, like some new federal assurance information. So we'll make sure to highlight anything that's new this year. Um, All right. My name is Sierra Scott. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the grant specialist here at Creative West, and I am based here in Reno, Nevada. We also have the rest of our team is rounded out by Josh Ellis, our Grants and Inclusion Manager, Ashanti McGee, our Grants and Access Manager, Anika Tanay, the Director of Grants Awards and Programs, and Marcelina Ramirez, our Grants Awards and Programs Coordinator. And I will pass it over to Marcelina for the next couple slides.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you today. I'm just going to go over our session outline for this evening. So we're going to go over our shared commitments and Zoom norms, the basic award information and timeline, our allowable expenses and match requirement, the crediting requirements or our Creative West rebrand, accessibility, federal assurances, final report requirements, capacity building workshops, and at the end, our Q&A. For our Zoom norms today, please keep your microphone muted when not speaking. It's in the far left corner. Please rename yourself to your first and last name and your organization name. If you click on participants, hover over your name and click the More button to change. As a reminder, there will be a Q&A at the end. So to ask questions or make comments, please use the raise hand function. Please feel free to write your question in the chat at any time and it will be answered during the Q&A section. I will be keeping track, and once again, we'll be going over that at the end. Click on reactions in the middle of your screen and choose raise hand, or click on chat in the middle of your screen to write your question or comment. Live transcripts closed captions are turned on. You can view or hide them, change the size, as well as other functions by using the up arrow on live transcript, which is either in the middle of your screen or behind the More button with the three dots on the right side of your screen. Our shared commitments today for here at Creative West. We value humility, learning from our mistakes, and asking questions to gain deeper understanding. We feel empowered to hold one another accountable, establish boundaries, and ask each other for help. We lean into discomfort by facing challenges with conflict, with openness and grace. We stay present by listening actively, being mindful of body language, and participating to the fullest of our ability. We share from our own experiences and grow as a team through the inclusion of every individual voice. We prioritize accessibility and are mindful of our language in ensuring belonging for all. So just a little blurb about what is Creative West. As a lot of you here know, we are a nonprofit and a regional arts organization that builds equitable technology funding, advocacy, and policy systems to generate creative capacity in the West and beyond. By building systems that change systems, we advance equity, justice, and regenerative action, seeing these values as essential as creativity itself. We offer direct, practical support to arts agencies, artists, culture bearers, and creative organizations aiming to work distributively in support of community-defined goals. Our direct service work includes equity-centered learning experiences and funding opportunities that connect and inspire culture bearers and communities to build more inclusivity, strengthen the arts field, and catalyze change. Founded in 1974, Creative West is governed by a 22 board of trustees composed of arts leaders in the West and serves the largest constitute territory of the 6 U.S. regional arts organizations and includes Alaska, American Samoa, Arizona, California, Colorado, Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, or the CNMI, Guam, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. Back to you, Sierra.
Thanks, Lena. So as you all know, just a quick overview, TourWest is a competitive grant program. It is 100% funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, so these are all federal funds. and it provides subsidies to arts and community organizations in the 13-state Creative West, formerly West Ave region, and jurisdictions. This is for the presentation of touring performers and literary artists. It is not a grant to support visual arts. And we define regional touring as out of state or at least 50 miles from the performance venue. So this year we made a couple changes. Some of these were spurred by our delayed funding cycle from the NEA, and we really wanted to be able to simplify the application process and get the funds out as quickly and efficiently as possible to our grantees. So that included a simplified application process, which we hope was a little bit more user-friendly for you all. There was no panel scoring or ranking, and a flat funding award was given to all eligible and qualifying applicants. So due to our number of eligible applicants, that grant amount ended up being $2,700 to all of our grantees. And that other key change that we were going to be discussing later is the updated federal assurances reflecting the recent executive orders. Okay, our timeline. So because of that delayed funding cycle, the period of performance did begin before you all got your grant award packet, but you can uh, use the grant funds for activities starting October 1 of 2025. And that would just be a reimbursement for those. Here in November, we're hoping you are all signing your grant agreements and submitting your EFT information. I think there's a handful of you that have still not signed the grant agreement. And there is a separate link within that grant agreement where you need to put in either your banking information or select a mailed check and put your address in. So please make sure if you have not done either of those things to do that ASAP. We are going to be processing the first batch of grant payments next week. So if you have any outstanding paperwork, we hope that you can get that in by this Friday. Otherwise, you'll probably be in our next batch of payments, which won't be until at least mid-December. Feel free to call me if you're having any trouble with those things. The grant period goes all the way until September 30th of 2026, so funds cannot be used for any expenses after that date. And October 30th is the last day to submit the final report. However, and I'm going to go over this a couple times, if we do ask that you submit your final report within 30 days of the event or October 30th, whichever is sooner. So if your event or whatever you're using the funds for ends in June, we would really love for you to submit that final report in July, if at all possible. We have to turn around pretty quickly and submit our final report to the NEA. So as early as you can get that final report in, that's really, really helpful for us. So thank you. Okay. Uh, we are going to be, like I said, dispersing all of the grant funds as an advance payment as soon as we get your grant agreement and all other documentation. Eligible expenses include artist fees, administration costs, as long as they are directly related to the regional touring program. So, general operating support would not be eligible, but if there are specific administration costs directly related to this, that is eligible. Facility rental fees, accessibility accommodations, marketing, promotion, and artist travel, all typical eligible expenses for this program. As a reminder, we are going to ask for documentation of both the use of the grant funds and the matching funds in your final report. So please make sure you keep those receipts, contracts, pay stubs, whatever it is, because we will be requesting those. If you are paying for travel, it does need to follow federal travel requirements, um, which includes airfare that doesn't exceed the value of the basic, least expensive, unrestricted accommodations offered by a commercial carrier, following the Fly America Act. And foreign travel is generally not an allowable expense under this grant. If there is an extenuating circumstance or you have a question on that, please contact us and we can discuss what that looks like. Okay. Uh, Generally unallowable expenses, like I said before, operating support or indirect costs. Entertainment or social activities. So this is one I always want to highlight. So receptions, parties, galas, anything in that nature would not be an allowable expense. Fundraising also. So make sure this isn't paying for events that are strictly for fundraising. Construction, purchase, or renovation of facilities, sub-granting or re-granting alcoholic beverages, and awards to individuals or organizations. As I said, these funds are federal funds, and so they must be matched on a one-to-one basis in cash, so not in kind, by the presenting organization. The one exception to this is that this year the match requirement is waived if you are an organization from our Pacific jurisdictions. So for everyone, because everyone has the same grant amount this year, the grant amount is 2,740, so your match must be 2,740 for a total of at least 5,480 of eligible project expenses. And of course, we expect that if we are supporting your regional touring season as a whole, you likely will have a lot more than 5,480 of eligible project expenses, but for us, we only need to see those receipts and the documentation of that 5,480. But in the final report, we will be asking for your entire income and expenses for the whole regional touring season, not just the award and match. And that's something that the NEA requests. They just want that number so they can kind of see what the impact of these projects is. The match obviously is the portion of the project expenses that are not paid for by this award. Your matching funds can come from a lot of different sources. It could be your own funds or donations or other grants, but they can't be other federal grants, as you cannot match federal funds with other federal funds. So just keep an eye on that. The expenses paid for with your matching funds are subject to the same allowable expense regulations as your grant award. So all of those line items that we just went over, that applies to both the matching funds and your grant funds. All right. Crediting requirements. We ask that you acknowledge support from both Creative West and the National Endowment for the Arts in all print, digital materials, and announcements related to the project. Often we see some folks that maybe credit Creative West and leave the NEA off, or vice versa. So please make sure you're crediting both of the organizations. This is directly from the NEA. Their basic requirement is a phrase acknowledging support using this specific language. This project is supported in part by Creative West, which receives support in part from the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency. We also do ask, using logos is not a requirement. However, if you can, that's a great way to also show the support. You can find our logos here and the NEA logos on the NEA website. And both of those links, and actually most everything in this presentation, can be found in your grant agreement. Let's see. You can also use social media to indicate support of your project. And if you do that, just take a screenshot so you have that on file, because we will ask you to upload proof of having met this crediting requirement in your final report. The NEA asks that you remove acknowledgments directly regarding the National Endowment for the Arts from your websites and other materials at the completion of the awards period of performance. Creative West does not have those same regulations, and if you'd like to keep our logos up as a supporter, we really believe in supporting all the organizations in our region as a whole. So, but you do have to take the NEA's materials off. Okay. And just a reminder for those of you that may have been with us for a while, we used to be the Western States Arts Federation, or WESTAF. And last year, for our 50th anniversary, we had a rebrand to Creative West. The new name and brand allow us to communicate our mission and values to a broad audience while still staying true to our roots. And it includes a new name, visual identity, logo, and color palette, and a clearer and more representative voice. We also have a really fantastic new website. So if you haven't checked that out, I recommend heading over there. There's a lot of resources there. Obviously, our grants and opportunities page. And there's a really a great impact map that shows all of our grantees across our region as well. And some of you are likely represented there. Okay. Moving on to accessibility compliance and Section 504. All activities supported with NEA funds must be made accessible to people with disabilities in compliance with Section 504 and the ADA. All recipients are legally required to provide reasonable and necessary accommodations for people with disabilities. Individuals with disabilities may be audiences, visitors, artists, performers, teaching artists, students, staff, and volunteers. So that last line is we're really encouraging kind of a 360 view of accessibility accommodations. And if you have any questions on this or other accessibility requirements, Ashanti McGee is our Grants and Access Manager, and they are a wonderful resource. So please feel free to reach out to them with any support or resources. We do ask, and this was in your grant agreement as well, that you have a Section 504 self-evaluation on file at your organization. We reserve the right to request that, but we don't request that as part of the agreement process. We just ask that you keep that on file at your organization. This self-evaluation helps your organization evaluate its programs, activities, and facilities with regard to Section 504 accessibility requirements. So the Civil Rights Office has a self-evaluation workbook on their website. It's a really great resource. However, you don't have to use that one, and you can have any equivalent ADA compliance documentation that works for your organization. We recommend that you designate a staff member to serve as a 504 coordinator, and they can be responsible for keeping this workbook or similar compliance documentation on file for 3 years from the date your final report is submitted. Okay. So the new federal assurances, so Appendix A has been in the grant agreements in the past, but what is new this year is that you also have to certify that you will follow all applicable executive orders and federal anti-discrimination laws, including Executive Order number 14173, ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. So by signing this grant, you certify that your organization does not operate any programs promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion that violate any applicable federal anti-discrimination laws. And that last part is, I really want to highlight that it's really about the federal anti-discrimination laws. There is a really great resource on the NEA's website for FAQs on this, where they kind of give you a little bit more information on what that looks like and what programming that might apply to. Uh, and we know that the new assurances and federal compliance requirements can feel complex and challenging to navigate. While we cannot provide legal advice, and we encourage you to consult with your own legal counsel, we are here to support you through this process and through the whole grant period. So if you have questions or need resources on this, we are absolutely available and can connect you with the right resources for any questions that come up regarding this. Okay. Our other federal grant management requirements, these are the same as past years. So for record retention, we ask that you keep any documentation related to this grant on file for 3 years from the date of the final report. You certify that you are not debarred and you are allowed to participate in federal awards. And if your organization receives over $750,000 a year from federal funds, then you do need to, it does require a single audit. Okay. Again, final report is due no later than October 30th, 2026. But if you can submit it within 30 days of the event end date, that would be fantastic. We're trying to make the final report also fairly user-friendly. So just a couple narrative questions. We are not asking for photos or any other documentation. We do ask you to upload that proof of crediting requirement. We'll ask you for a final budget, the NEA reporting data. So those of you that have done that before, it's just kind of high level data on your regional touring season. So, the age range of the individuals that were served by the program, how some the other parameters of folks that participated and artists that participated and things like that. If you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out. The final report is available right now on GoSmart, so you can look ahead so you can gather that information throughout the grant period. We'll also ask you for your activity locations. So this is the address of any grant-funded activities that happened within the grant period. So all we need is the address and the number of days that grant-funded activities happened there. And then finally, we'll ask you for financial documentation of the use of award and matching funds. And the financial documentation can be many different things, including itemized receipts showing proof of payment, invoices, check stubs, contracts with artists are acceptable. Really, what we need to see is a date that's within the period of performance, detail on what the expense is, and of course, the amount. If the funded project is altered substantially from the approved application, send us an email to tourwest@wearecreativewest.org to request a grant amendment request form. And I highlighted substantially here because I really want to highlight that we are really trying to fund your entire regional touring season and not one specific event. And by keeping that broad, that allows you to have a little bit more flexibility. So if an artist, cancels and you have to fill it in with another artist, or if one of the venues falls through and you have to change the venue, those would not be substantial alterations for your project. If it's really a wholesale change and it's going in a different direction, then give us a call and we can do this grant amendment request form, which is very easy. It's only 3 questions, but we're really trying to keep it as easy as possible for our grantees, and we know that things can change throughout the year. Okay. Um, in addition to this webinar, we also are holding our second year of our capacity building webinar series. These are held on the second Tuesday of every month from 4 to 5:30 Mountain. These are all free to attend, and we want everyone to attend these, so feel free to share with your networks, other folks in your communities. And these are all topics that are hopefully helpful for both arts organizations and artists. So we have kind of two different tracks going on here. I'm particularly excited about our December 9th workshop, which is fundraising, readiness, and prospecting, and that is with our development director, Caleb Rainey. But take a look at these. If you go to our website, if you go to Creative West website, you can find these and sign up for whichever ones interest you throughout the year. I also want to highlight our accessibility in practice webinar on July 14th of next year, which is going to have some really helpful resources. Okay. And then you're going to see this in the final report. While we don't request photos or documentation of your season or your organization, we do have this new resource that we're trying to create called the Story Vault. And we are gathering grantee stories, photos, all the exciting things that you all are doing so that we can be part of telling your story. It could be in our bi-monthly newsletter. It could be in other ways that we are connecting throughout the region, and we really want to be able to tell the stories of the great work that you all are doing. So when you submit your final report, there is a link to our Story Vault there. It is optional, but if you have the time, please take a look at that, and we would love to feature you in any of our upcoming materials.